Today we look into the disturbing case of Ellen Greenberg, a respected teacher in Philadelphia whose shocking demise in 2011 has triggered years of heated disputes and legal confrontations. Ellen Greenberg was a well-regarded teacher in the Philadelphia educational system, recognized for her steadfast commitment to her students and the glowing energy that imbued warmth to everyone in her vicinity. But the year 2011 witnessed a horrifying incident, which would cast a permanent dark cloud on her legacy. Ellen was tragically discovered lifeless in her personal residence, her body bearing an appalling count of 20 stab wounds. This ghastly find instigated immediate shockwaves and fright, with a long list of questions rising like a swarm of startled bees. Who in the world could have harbored a desire to harm such a beloved person? The circumstances surrounding Ellen's death were nothing less than baffling. The sheer volume of wounds indicated a ferocious struggle, yet there were no evident signs of forced entry into her home. The murder weapon, a toppled knife, was found at the crime scene, an eerie testament to the horrible event. Yet it wasn't merely the crime scene that sparked confusion. An extra gash at the back of Ellen's head provoked additional speculations. Could it have been a consequence of a stumble, or was it evidence of a more insidious event? Preliminary inquiry conducted by the law enforcement, the prosecuting attorneys, and the coroner's office hinted towards homicide. This seemed like the only feasible explanation for such a savage attack. Nonetheless, inconsistencies in the investigation started to surface, such as the absence of interview records with the cleaning agency that tidied up the post-crime scene or the apartment's managing supervisor, which did not go unnoticed. However, as the dust from the initial shock began to settle, an unexpected twist was on the verge of emergence. The initial assumption of homicide was about to be disputed, completely overturning the case of Ellen Greenberg on its axis and hurling her family into an emotionally draining and extended legal battle. The initial investigation concluded it as a homicide, but a surprising twist awaited. Despite the gruesome nature of Ellen's death, authorities ruled it as a suicide, a decision that left many puzzled and skeptical. The ruling was indeed controversial, to say the least. The fact that Ellen Greenberg, a Philadelphia teacher, had 20 stab wounds on her body, raised eyebrows and questions about the validity of the suicide ruling. The details were chilling: a young woman found dead, with multiple wounds, a scene that could easily be mistaken for a violent crime. Yet the authorities concluded that it was a self-inflicted act. The incredulity surrounding this decision was not limited to the public. Even within the confines of the courtroom, the ruling was met with skepticism. Many were left wondering how it was possible for a person to inflict such brutal harm upon themselves. One would naturally expect a single, maybe 2 or 3 self-inflicted wounds in a suicide. But 20? It seemed far-fetched, even to those with only a cursory understanding of criminology. The disbelief was not confined to the number of wounds alone. Other inconsistencies were pointed out in the investigation, such as an overturned knife and a gash on the back of Ellen's head. These elements added layers of doubt to an already murky case. The Greenberg family, understandably, was among the most vocal critics of the ruling. Their skepticism was not unfounded. They questioned how their daughter, a young woman with her entire life ahead of her, could meet such a tragic end. And more importantly, how could the authorities be so quick to dismiss the possibility of foul play? The ruling was met with a wave of public outcry. People demanded answers, clarity, and most importantly, justice. The Greenberg family felt the same. They were not satisfied with the authorities' handling of the case. They believed there was more to Ellen's death than what was being conveyed. The Greenberg family, refusing to accept the ruling, took matters into their own hands. They were determined to uncover the truth behind their daughter's untimely demise, no matter what it took. They were prepared for a long and arduous journey in their quest for justice. And so, the fight began. Determined to uncover the truth about their daughter's death, the Greenberg family launched their own investigation. Not willing to accept the ruling that their daughter had committed suicide, the Greenbergs decided to take matters into their own hands. They searched for answers, for any signs that could help them understand the tragedy that had befallen their beloved Ellen. They hired a team of experts comprised of seasoned investigators and forensic analysts. These professionals began to dissect the case piece by piece. They scoured the crime scene, reviewed police reports, and analyzed the autopsy results. And the findings? They were as chilling as they were baffling. They pointed out inconsistencies in the police investigation, anomalies that didn't quite fit the narrative of suicide. For instance, there was an overturned knife found at the scene, a detail that was overlooked in the initial investigation. What's more, they discovered a gash on the back of Ellen's head, a wound that seemed inconsistent with self-inflicted injuries. The Greenbergs were not merely spectators in this quest for truth. They were active participants, ardent advocates for their daughter. They questioned the authorities, challenged the official narrative, and sought to bring to light the discrepancies in the investigation. They also pursued a civil suit, determined to hold those responsible accountable. They argued that their daughter's case had been mishandled, that crucial evidence had been missed or ignored, and that their daughter's death was not a suicide, but a crime that had been covered up. The Greenbergs' fight for justice was and continues to be a testament to their unwavering love for their daughter and their unshakable belief in her innocence. They have shown that they will stop at nothing to uncover the truth, to honor their daughter's memory, and to ensure that justice is served. However, their pursuit for justice faced a major obstacle. An appellate court panel upheld the ruling of suicide, but not without criticizing the initial investigation. A storm of controversy had been brewing since the moment Ellen Greenberg's lifeless body was discovered, and the court's verdict only added fuel to the fire. The court ruled in favor of suicide, a decision that left many questions unanswered. But the panel didn't shy away from voicing their disapproval of the initial investigation. The police, prosecutors, and medical examiner's office were all under fire for what the court described as errors in their investigation. The court's criticism was scathing, highlighting a myriad of inconsistencies and oversights that had marred the probe into Ellen's death. The pathologists didn't escape the court's scrutiny either. Their conclusions were called into question, with the court noting the initial determination of homicide by one pathologist. This decision was later reversed, a move that raised more than a few eyebrows. The court's critique of the pathologist's conclusions shed a disturbing light on the inconsistencies that had plagued the investigation from the start. But the court's verdict also revealed a shocking lack of records. There were no interviews with the company that cleaned up the crime scene or the building manager. This was a glaring omission, one that further called into question the thoroughness and objectivity of the investigation. The court's verdict, while upholding the ruling of suicide, painted a picture of an investigation riddled with errors and oversights. As the court's decision echoed through the courtroom, the Greenberg family was left reeling. Their pursuit of justice for Ellen had been met with a ruling that seemed to only deepen the mystery surrounding her death, but despite the setback, their resolve remained unbroken. The court's decision was a blow to the Greenberg family, but their fight was far from over. The battle for justice for Ellen Greenberg was just beginning. The court's verdict was a chapter in their story, but it was far from the final page. Undeterred by the court's ruling, the Greenberg family continues their quest for justice. The court's decision, while a setback, has only served to fortify the Greenbergs' resolve. They are ready to take their fight to the highest level, to the state's Supreme Court, in their pursuit of what they believe to be the truth. This is not just about overturning a ruling, it's about challenging a system that they believe has failed their daughter. Meanwhile, there's a glimmer of hope in the form of the Chester County District Attorney's Office. They've taken an interest in Ellen's case and are conducting their own review. Their involvement provides a fresh set of eyes on the case and the potential to uncover new evidence or perspectives that may have been missed in the initial investigation. And then there's the civil lawsuit, a separate but equally important battle the Greenbergs are fighting. This isn't about compensation, but about accountability. They allege a cover-up, a claim that, if proven, could shake the very foundations of the institutions involved. It's a daunting path ahead, with many potential stumbling blocks, but the Greenbergs remain steadfast. Their love for their daughter fuels their determination. They believe that Ellen deserves justice, and they will not rest until they feel it has been served. This tragic story is a stark reminder that sometimes, the fight for justice extends beyond the courtroom. It's about challenging the status quo, about not accepting things at face value, about demanding answers when things just don't add up. The mysterious case of Ellen Greenberg remains unsolved, and the search for the truth continues. As we wait for the next chapter in this ongoing battle, we are reminded that the pursuit of justice is often a marathon, not a sprint. And for the Greenbergs, the finish line is still a long way off.